Take a step back into DC's past as comic superstar Mark Waid puts his own spin on the early days of the Man of Steel back when he was only Superboy. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Action Comics issue number 1087 and find out what happens next together, shall we? Alrighty then, so this issue impresses right out of the gate, mainly unlike a lot of the other more self-contained Action Comic stories we've been getting recently. This one here is very clearly taking place in the mainline continuity as it is right now. Superman is assisting the brand new mayor of Metropolis, Perry White, in setting up a cool new flight ring display at the Expo of Tomorrow. Basically, it's the World's Fair, but in the DC universe. Apparently, Clark was a huge fan of the Expo back when he was a kid. In fact, it was one of the major defining moments of his young life, so naturally he's happy to help out, and even happier that Perry was able to use his pull as mayor to get the Expo back in Metropolis. Clark had been to the Expo plenty of times, but perhaps the most important trip he ever took was the first, back during the summer he turned 15. We see a young Clark accompanied by a young Ma and Pa Kent make the long bus trip from Smallville to the big city. The Kents are humble farmers, but this is a very special occasion, and as such they were completely cool with shelling out. Of course, things end up getting a little awkward when Martha realizes that Clark is actually wearing the unfinished prototype of his Superman costume under his clothes. As Clark explains, it's the big city, there's lots of crime there, anything could go down at any moment, and he just wants to be prepared, even though him and his parents had a long conversation about picking the right moment for him to reveal himself to the world. We also get a nice little page wherein Clark talks about coming into his telescopic vision. Basically, that means he can see things from very far away. It's one of those powers that doesn't seem all that impressive now, but it sure did when Superman first debuted, and I like Mark Waid's attention to detail bringing it back. Now, while young Clark is absolutely overjoyed to see all the sights and sounds and amazing new technological breakthroughs the Expo has to offer, we actually end up learning a fair amount about Jonathan Pa Kent in this issue. Mainly, like a lot of old men, he's something of a World War II buff, specifically the superhero side of the war as personified by the Justice Society of America, which in turn means that Pa was sure to quiz Clark regularly on JSA factoids. Mark Waid's actually been doing a lot with the DC timeline over in the pages of his Batman Superman book, and I'd like to see him continue to be dedicated to that sort of thing here in this story as well. Yes, the JSA were real, so were the Seven Soldiers of Victory and the Legion of Superheroes, and Superman was lucky enough to be inspired by all of them in his own way. Eventually, this happy family outing, as it so often does in the DC universe, ends up getting interrupted by a villain. This guy calls himself Raze, and he apparently has quite a bone to pick with the Expo's interpretation of the future, as he says it's corrupted and blind by corporate interest. And I mean, if this is supposed to be the World's Fair, he's not 100% wrong. Basically, half the stuff that our grandparents and even great-grandparents lost their minds over were funded by big business in one way or another. Naturally, when Raze starts threatening people's lives, this looks like a job for Superboy. He flies into action, and we can actually see how the suit isn't quite finished yet. The belt is like a real belt for pants. The shorts are much longer instead of being shorter trunks, and he's actually wearing just regular sneakers instead of boots. They're small changes, but I like the little tweaks here and there. It definitely makes this story feel special and like its own new exciting thing. Superboy saves the crowd of civilians from falling debris before eventually turning his might towards Raze. He's ready to knock him outside the head when he stops and realizes, hey, wait a minute. I am 15 years old. I have never been in a regular fight, let alone a super fight. How do I know if I hit this guy, I won't end up turning all of his bones to pudding? I just want to split his wig, not kill him. Raze takes this opportunity to exploit Superman's opening and knocks him aside. This guy might look like a doofus and his ideology might seem a little all over the place, but he does actually have power. For a second there, the boy who would be Superman is pretty damn bewildered about what he should do next. That is, of course, until his super hearing ends up picking up all the people in need. Eventually, Clark shakes off the cobwebs and throws himself back into the field, saving more people from getting killed. Thankfully, he also won't need to wonder about whether or not he can control his strength, because after grabbing Raze and knocking his helmet out, this dude is so scared he pretty much craps his pants and passes out. Geez, what an embarrassing first at bat for a superhero. I can see why this is an untold tale of Superboy. With the villain defeated, the crowd rushes Superboy, filled with questions that he understandably can't answer at the moment. He gets so freaked out, Clark has no choice but to fly away. Before he got there, Ma and Pa Kent tried to talk to him, him about the importance of controlling your narrative, and well, he's learning firsthand just how hard that can be. As word of the red and blue superhero ends up catching the ears of a strange Illuminati-style group of dudes in hoods, which, let's face it, is never a good sign. These guys clearly have governmental connections because they make it the duty of General Sam Wayne to hunt this new individual to the ends of the earth. Now, that's a story we're pretty used to hearing as Superman fans, right? But it's at the end of the comic that's quite interesting. You see, a news report about Superboy's actions ends up reaching the eyes and ears of an old-timer who is very unimpressed with the young Superman, saying that he's dangerous and reckless before eventually proving he's no normal guy as he takes to the sky himself. Ooh, but is he hero or villain, friend or foe? I guess we'll have to pick up the next issue to find out, won't we? And so that was Action Comics number 1087, everybody, and while I've certainly enjoyed the more standalone mood pieces of this superstar era of Superman stories, this new one from Mark Waid definitely does a good job feeling more substantial. Yes, I know full well that untold tales and backup stories aren't exactly everyone's cup of tea, but because this is Mark Waid and because he is leaving such fingerprints all over modern Superman, I feel like what happens here is going to actually end up being important and end up becoming canon, at least for the next little bit. I also have to wonder too if going back and telling new stories with young Superboy is something of a little bit of bigger DC media synergy, considering that we're getting a brand new movie with a younger Superman who's really only been doing the job and living in Metropolis for 3 years, so maybe they think people will be hungry for stories with a younger Superman. I will say this one definitely has its own unique flavor and certainly feels different than all the other Superman books on the shelf right now, which for once is actually saying something because we have a lot of options in Superman comics right now. If you've been ignoring the last couple volumes of Superman, I think this might actually be the ticket to get you back. I know I certainly liked it, which is why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.